Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Township of Georgian Bay Committee of Adjustment meeting. Committee of the Whole Adjustment meeting is on Friday, and I apologize. And I'd like to call this meeting to order at 3:14 p.m. And I'm not going to repeat the land acknowledgement statement of this morning, but I am going to check with council if there's any pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. And I think we could argue everybody, and I don't know how we respond to that other than the clerk tells us it's okay because we all have a conflict. But I don't know how that works. But anyway, any other declarations outside the fact that we're all very conflicted on our first item? And we don't have anyone for open forum, I presume, and therefore we're going to go straight into a staff report on council remuneration. I have to say that word a few times. And I'm going to hand that over to our clerk, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a quick presentation just to summarize the highlights of my report, just so we're all on the same page and can have I've received a couple of questions, so just this way it will help smooth things over. So the intention of this report is to provide committee with an overview of council's current remuneration along with a list of comparable councils. For example, communities whose council may be seasonal, travel from secondary addresses, have waterfront access properties, and have a similar population size. The aim for today's discussion is to focus on what should remain the same, be reduced or included or increased. Once staff receive direction on the requested changes, another report will be brought forward which will outline the financial impacts of those changes, which will be the final consideration on remuneration. And for clarity, I would like to summarize the key points and recommendations within the report. So here's the annual honorarium, which is currently within the average of the comparables, and staff are supportive of the current CIP annual increases, which have been ongoing for the past 10-ish years at least. That helps keep everything kind of on par. The meeting honorariums provided annually are supported by staff, and this encompasses the time and travel for meetings. To keep up with inflation and mileage costs, if an increase is desired, staff are recommending an increased mayor be bumped up to $10,000 and councillors up to $6,500. Additionally, the Committee of Adjustment members attend most applicant properties in addition to their meetings, so an increase from $150 to $175 per meeting is also being proposed. Vehicle mileage rate is paid per the CRA annual rate, and this is the same for council and staff. Mileage is paid per the travel and expense policy, and no changes are being recommended. Vessel mileage, only 2 municipalities provide vessel mileage rate. Both of them are paid out at different rates, and neither have a clear determination, at least none that was evident to us, as to how they came out with their current formula. Archipelago is 4 times their mileage rate and district is 6 times their mileage rate. So currently, all of council have been provided a laptop at the beginning of this term. Staff are supportive of the continuation of this practice and are reviewing a different device options for the 2026-2030 term of council. We have heard the current laptops are heavy and bulky, and we can look at getting maybe a smaller, more streamlined device in the future. Also, currently, the mayor has provided a mobile device. At the beginning of the next term, it is recommended that all of council is also provided with one to conduct their township business. You don't have one, sorry. All of council, sorry. You don't have one, do you? That's not.
Nobody gave me a
Okay.
Or I lost it already.
As for the IT stipend, since devices are provided at the proposed is for devices to be provided at the beginning of each term, staff are recommending that the per term stipend provided to the 4 non-district councillors no longer be provided. District councillors are provided an IT stipend at the beginning of the term by the district, so this is why there's a differentiation between the two, and that the annual IT stipend remain the same. If council would like an increase to their health spending account, staff are recommending an increase to $4,000. However, that the 1-year carryover that currently is in play would no longer apply. Administratively, this is a lot of work to manage and keep track of, especially since it's only carried over for 1 year. And it makes it more difficult to budget year end and year out. And here's a brief comparison of the current remuneration along with the recommendations from staff, if that is how council chooses to move forward, and what the difference would be, which totals approximately an increase of $15,000. Like I said, these are round numbers. I only work with round numbers, as you can see, rounded everything to the nearest dollar.
And that's it.
That's it.
All right.
Do you want me to leave this or take it down?
Well, I'm sure something will come up in the conversation as we go forward, so I say be prepared, but I think I'd like to take you take it down for now, and then we'll see where we go. So I'm going turning over to council and say, who has comments? And Councillor Bocek, followed by Councillor Jarvis. No, do you?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. My concern is with the health benefit portion of this, and as we know, with inflation, the cost of prescriptions and dentists and everything else has escalated to a point where the $3,000 a year doesn't cover it. And in the past, with the rollovers, you could delay some things like surgeries or dental work or whatever, and accumulate that amount until, you know, it was such an amount that you could afford to move ahead with it. So I would like to see not only the increase, but I would like to see, and I understand it's an accounting nightmare, but I would like to see the rollover remain in place. Thank you.
All right. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Councillor Bocek on the rollover. On that front. But in the report that we received, but not in what you just gave us now, there was a cell phone. She talked about it. Did I miss it? Okay. I have my hearing aids in, but
sorry,
I don't
yeah, I did reference that a mobile device be provided to each councillor at the beginning of next term. Sorry, because we issued them now, you would have them for a year, and for us, it's easier to do at the beginning of the term.
I'd rather not have one at all, personally speaking, but I mean, that's
but I don't have a cost comparison for that.
Future discussion. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm not keen on the cell phone situation, but yeah, I'm just going to comment on Councilor Bocek to the words out of my mouth with regards to the health spending account. Thanks.
Councilor Cooper.
It's going to be a short meeting. Since we all agree, I happen to agree with Councilor Bocek that I'm pleased to see the annual compensation up by $1,000 for healthcare, but I think the rollover is important as well. So I concur with both those comments. The only other thing that I'd like to mention is that there may need to be some sort of consideration to vessel compensation, because I can tell you that I don't go out often in my larger boat, but I do to take staff around and show them things, and when wanted, and can get very expensive. Running a 24-foot boat and be out in the bay, you got to have a big boat or you get blown away. So I think it would be fair to consider that as something. I shouldn't be out of pocket too much. I already am, but I think even more so as it pertains to travel in a vessel. So, and I can tell you that the District of Muskoka came up with their rate for that, and I get paid by them at a certain rate, and they came up with that because they found some municipalities in British Columbia and the Gulf Islands, and that's what they were paying their councillors. That's where they got that number. Just it sort of validates what they've got. Anyway, that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. On the whole, I think the report is very bang on. I don't have a particular issue with the health spending account, but I did want to make a pitch for rather than providing a laptop and taking away the stipend, provide a stipend for us to purchase our own equipment. And I don't know how that would mesh with the policies of the township and the security issues that would be surrounding that. But perhaps there could be some consideration for allowing more personal choice in computer equipment rather than what's provided, and maybe that might take away some of the burden on Township for having to maintain them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Graziano.
Thank you, and through your worship, actually both of my fellow councillors had stolen my thunder with regards to my comments. I would concur with regards to the carryover or the rollover for insurance purposes. Yes, absolutely. I think losing it or using it or losing it is going to essentially put us in a position where we're spending things on things that we don't necessarily want, rather on things that we could use, like a root canal or a cap or whatever that may be. And in this day and age, unless you're flying to Mexico, it's not cheap. Second to that, with regards to the, for lack of a better term, I don't know, auxiliary vehicles. I was going to use toy, but if I look at myself, I support 3 different bodies of water. 2 inland lakes and 1 river. And it's not easy for me to take my boat out of my local water body, that being 6 Mile Lake, have to tow it down to Gloucester Pool, put it into Gloucester Pool, and endeavor to go and conduct business there, for me to then pull it out of Gloucester Pool and have to bring it to the river. And or I could go through the locking system. Either which way, I'm incurring costs that are not considered or factored into the meeting honorarium. The meeting honorarium would be to cover my costs associated with being here today, and so on and so on. And the charges become astronomical when you consider not only the cost for your truck and your vehicle to bring your your boat, your snowmobile, your ski-doo, whatever it may be, to the location, launch it, and then have to incur fuel charges to fill it back up. So perhaps we allow Councillor Hazelton to return back to the meeting.
Yeah, he hasn't spoken yet about the health allowance.
And then lastly, with regards to what Councillor Predko had advised, I would concur. I'm not a Windows guy. I never have been. I never will be, albeit I'm on a Windows today. And my preference is to work with iOS. If given a device whereby it's an Android, a Windows, anything along those lines, I think that I would just rather shelve it than actually use it. And so I would suggest that we maintain the IT stipend and allow for councillors to purchase or allocate a certain amount to allow councillors to purchase a device that might be usable. Alternatively, if that's not the case and staff returns back, maybe they consider offering multiple different iOS devices. So whether it's a Mac, whether it's a PC, iOS, Android, and allow councillors a choice of what they use, because some of us are far more savvy on one platform than we are on the others. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelton.
Sorry, I spilled my brains all over the floor back there and had to clean them up. So stipend, yes. Phone, absolutely not. Health, okay. Marine mileage, yes. And that's about it. So the IT's, yes. So we're back to there is no need for a township issued laptop, period, full stop. And we can have that argument till the cows come home, but there is no need for it. And there should be no need for a mobile device. So maybe the mayor needs these things because he's a full-time employee and he lives here, but that's not what we need in the field. And that's my thoughts. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we should be paying more to our Committee of Adjustment members. We're going from 150, 175. I think we should go to at least 200. That's my opinion on that, because they do a lot of traveling around. They don't get a mileage allowance or a coffee allowance or whatever you want to call it. And I think given the size of our township, and that's a personal opinion, but I think they deserve more. I will admit I don't like my office laptop, but that's because of the size. I don't want to carry that, and I know it's not an anchor, but this is so much more than this that to me that would. But I'm agnostic to whether I'm given a choice in a smaller laptop or I'm given money to buy a smaller laptop that's for the township. And whether or not you provide me with a mobile device, I mean, I'll be cooperative there because to me that's not a game changer. I guess I'm a lot less healthy than any of my fellow counselors because I have no problem reaching $3,000 in medical expenses in a year. I'll have no problem reaching $4,000 of medical expenses in a year, and therefore, I think we should be able to do that within the year. But obviously, a fair number of my colleagues think otherwise. But you know, I'm probably going to totally get people upset with me. I think this whole idea of having an honorarium is stupid. It's fully taxable, just like our salary is fully taxable. And then we can choose when we file our tax returns to list the various expenses that we are incurring, because the township will give us a form saying that we are allowed to go see various people. We're expected to go to various events and various people, and those expenses we can list and therefore reduce it. And I don't understand why and I make the same argument at district, why we have two different lines on our pay stub when they're both fully taxable. Years ago, and I'm going 6.5 years ago, and councilors Wojcik and Cooper probably remember this from their first term. The old policy with CRA was a portion, you had a base salary, whatever it is, and then you could be paid up to 50% of that salary, like on top, for expenses tax-free. So let's say your pay was 10 grand, you could receive 5 grand tax-free to cover your expenses. And then CRA said, no, you can't receive anything tax-free. And almost every municipality said, okay, instead of getting $15,000 they were paying out before and deducting tax, we're now going to pay you $17,000, and so that you end up with roughly the same amount in your pocket afterwards. Well, 1/3 of the 15, but the way CRA calculated it was 50% of your taxable income. 6 of one, half dozen the other. And why we continued having them two lines after they smushed it all together, I'm not sure, but that's just me being a stupid accountant. At least I once was. Okay, you can argue I'm still stupid, but I'm not an accountant. Anyway, I think it's almost silly in my mind, because I'm going to look at my honorarium, whatever it is, and my salary, whatever it is, together, and that's what I'm being paid by the township. That's me. Maybe nobody else agrees with me, but I think this two lines in calling one an honorarium and saying that I'm going to be paid $10,000 to go to my meetings and everybody else is going to be paid 6.5 to go to their meetings, and the argument is I'm going to roughly 50% more meetings. I don't know if that's the right ratio. I don't care. But anyway, that's me and some of my comments. I see lots of hands, so let's do round two. Councillor Cooper.
I didn't put my hand down either, but I will say one thing. Yes, thank you very much, because I was going to put my hand up anyway. The meeting allowance. I mean, I know there's a lot of discussion about boat use and mileage on boat use. I would not be inclined to add a procedure or a policy around claiming mileage for boats and time on boats and fees for locks and launches. But if we need to increase the meeting allowance to accommodate for some of that, I would see that as a reasonable approach. But I would be cautious about us having to keep track and report and have our administrative staff keep track and put it on our pay slips.
Especially if we have to calculate how many kilometers we actually
Yeah.
went with our boat. It's a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but
Maybe we
I'm
would,
not tracking.
GPS works pretty well.
would you just number of hours on your boat? That was what you use.
Councillor Bocheck.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. I can't disagree with everybody's thought on computers, being able to pick out your own computer and that, but I would like a choice. Personally, I would like an assigned computer from the township so that I can use the tech services here, which I use on a consistent basis because I'm not that smart on a computer. So I would just like the choice, council be given the choice whether they can use an assigned computer or they'll have a snippet to go out and buy their own computer. Yeah, come on.
Only if it has whiteout. Councillor Cooper.
I just wanted to comment on the concern about compensation for the use of a vessel. It's not a play toy, it's a transportation and it's expensive. And I realize that I'm probably the only councillor here that travels really long distances for every meeting, but get compensated exactly the same as everybody else. So that's why I raised the issue of use of vessels. And then when I do go to other events, if I have to, recently I went to the Wawatesi annual general meeting, and I would guess, you know, the cost associated with that is pretty significant. You're talking about 24-foot boat, pushing a lot of water. I probably spend $100 to $150 per trip. Pardon me? Is that the wrong kind of boat? So, pardon me? Yeah, that's a really good idea when there's 6-foot seas. I'll welcome you to come out and see me when it's like that, okay? No, it's not. Anyway, I don't think people understand the sort of dynamic that is associated with that. And our fellow councillors that are on the water, but maybe traveling 5 or 10 minutes, not 30 and 45 minutes. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's a reality. So I think if there's a way to compensate and make it simpler and not have to keep track of it, I'd be delighted to have that too. But the district did think it was reasonable. Thank you.
Director Radigan.
Thank you, Mayor Kutsir. Through you to members of council, I just wanted to provide some comments with regards to laptops or IT equipment. So the idea is currently we do have 2 IT staff members and they do support a majority of softwares and tools. And so to have to learn different types of devices that are purchased, I believe would likely make it a little less efficient. But there's also tools that we do put on devices that our managed service provider does use to remote in to provide assistance. And so that is something our managed service provider is not willing to do. I believe we've had that discussion in the past. If there is a desire to purchase certain types of software, I believe we could work with our IT staff and provide an option to 2 different or a few different devices that council would be happy with, I guess. But I would avoid going in the route of buying your own personal devices. It does make it difficult for our staff to support council.
Councillor Hazelton.
I have no voice. I have no voice, but I have a dream. I can just imagine all of us. We're all water-based counselors needing to get out to council, events and visit customers. Imagine a whole fleet of the exact same boat, all with Township of Georgian Bay on the side. So instead of having a township-issued laptop, we get a township-issued boat, and we get to go and visit all of our residents with our township issued boat.
I have a dream that we have a water access township hall.
Perfect.
If we're going to dream, let's dream.
Anyways, seriously, thank you, Director Radigan. My belief is if you want tech support from the township, you stay with the township issued device. If you don't care about that township issued support, then you should have access to a stipend to go off and get your own. And I would suggest that there are probably at least 3 of us on council who would be quite happy to take full responsibility for our own devices. Others may not, but I don't think we should be all forced into the same pot because of other personal preferences. So I think that's important. And I don't know how we do this marine mileage thing. I think Councillor Cooper's idea of trying to figure out how we accommodate it is important. We don't want to burden staff with counting beans or miles or kilometers, but at the same time, I think we do need to recognize the very significant cost of water-based travel, and that's what our township is all about. Thank you.
Councilor Wojcik.
And I'm a little bit different on that. I've been around for a little while, and you know, I will visit all my constituents that have road access, and if they don't have road access and they want to speak to me, I ask them to come and meet me at a port, at a launch ramp, or whatever, pick me up, or meet me at the gas station across the street, and we have a conversation. But if they want me to go out and do a site visit to their property, I ask them to come in and pick me up. So I'm different. I know that can't happen to a lot of councillors, but I don't think I've used my boat in 7 years, probably, just because the people that want me to go out will come in and get me.
Councilor Wojcik, when I first met you, you were an enthusiastic, whatever brand it was, Sea-Doo, Wave Runner, going all over the township.
Yeah, I was. And I used to collect money off of docks for the Canoe for Cancer, too. But since then, I just find I tell people, even on the Severn River, if you want me to go out, meet me at the Big Chute. And I go out from the Big Chute. Because there's liability involved here, too. I mean, if something happens and you're on your own boat, the township, I don't think, would cover the liability if there was an accident or whatever. So.
Well, I mean, I will say from my own experience, if I'm going to see anybody on the inland lakes, yeah, I meet them at the shore somewhere. On the bay, I take my boat. Often I have passengers. I have never charged the township for boat time, in part because I figure my salary, my honorarium, my pay package, whatever you want to call it, is of such that it's supposed to cover those sort of things. Because, I mean, I'm thinking of the history. The history of this is that back in the day, we used to get I'll call it 1/3 was an expense allowance. Well, that 1/3 didn't go away. It just got taxable. So, and it's up to me to determine on my tax return what expenses I deduct and how I calculate them, and whether or not CRA has any difficulty with them. So anyway, that's me. I'm you know, I am concerned that if we start getting into paying different councillors different amounts depending upon where they're located in the township, that it's going to get complicated, and I think that if we really believe that we're not being compensated enough for our use of vessels, ATVs, snowmobiles, wave runners, automobiles, then we should be saying to ourselves and to our residents, well, I think our honorarium should be doubled. Or I'm just making up a number so that our travel expenses within the township are covered. Because then it would be simple, straightforward. And you know, we could say right now, everybody's going to get an additional $5,000 honorarium to cover travel expenses within the township. Clerk Way, I believe I saw your hand.
Sorry, I mean, the rest of the comments are pretty clear and easy to follow. That's my concern, is how would that mileage be paid out? How would it be monitored? The easiest, cleanest way is to increase the meeting honorarium in order for that to be addressed. And I've worked for municipalities before where every meeting a counselor attends, they have to write down on a piece of paper how many kilometers they travel, and they have to submit it within, 90 days, and then we have to process it, and then there's inevitably someone who doesn't submit it in 90 days, and then they fight council to get it back. Like it's an administrative nightmare, both for the counselor and for staff to try to get all that paperwork in.
Well, and this is the same council that needs extensions on their health expenses.
So I just we don't have a policy right now on how we would pay out boat mileage, and right now we don't have a policy on how council would be paid for attending site visits with constituents. That's not within any of our policies right now. So if that is the direction, then we need to come up with a whole new policy and what that guideline would look like. But the easiest way would just be to increase the stipend, or not the stipend, the honorarium for meetings. But I'm looking to your direction on what that amount would be then.
Thank you. Councilor Cooper, is that an old hand or a new hand?
New hand.
Go.
I'm an old hand. I think we had some of this discussion earlier, and part of it is reminding ourselves that we need to probably attract some new counselors in the future. And let's not forget that, and make sure that we can be fair with and attract people appropriately. And the reason I raise the issue of vessel costs, because in Ward 2, there's no travel on the road. You can't jump in a car and drive for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and be in Honey Harbor, Mayor, for example, or for you, you're so close by boat. Well, you really are. But I can tell you, out in Ward 2, everything you do is a lot of travel. It's weather conditions that are significant, lightning storms. I've seen people killed on the water. It's not funny. So, and a wave runner, I'm sorry, good luck on the 6-foot seas out in my territory. It ain't gonna work. You'll get flown, they'll be bounced off the machine. So I think we need to remember that. Now, there's gotta be a way to make it simple, and I understand that, but maybe that is, I don't know what the simple answer for that is, but maybe we could ask our staff to give some thought to how to make it simple. It might be a set amount or something, but it certainly applies to Ward 2. And I'm not suggesting that others aren't having expenses as well, but particularly in Ward 2. And we may in the future have to do some recruiting there. You never know. Thank you.
I wonder where you are on Councillor Bocek's list. Well, you should then turn your mic on.
If it's added, $5,000 is added, that's taxable. And I don't know about you, but I'm in a 40% tax bracket, so that $5,000 gets reduced a long way because we are taxed on that amount. As opposed, I don't know if there's a way that can be put through as an expense, so it's not taxable, but I doubt it. Gosh. But I think that's something that needs to be addressed because some people still work or they have investments that pay them, and that's going to take 40% of that $5,000 away.
Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I'm just going to take into account the comments that you, the mayor, made through you to our director of finance. Is it possible for us to combine the honorarium with our salary? Because I think there's a pretty good argument here for having it as one sum. It makes everything a lot easier. And adding to that, that's my question.
Through you, Mayor Coutier, to Councillor Jarvis. So the honorarium currently is paid out as though it is part of your salary. I wouldn't recommend paying out expenses that are expenses and not salary if they're not directly related to either a mileage or some sort. That would likely not be sufficient for any of our audits that we would proceed with. So anything that is going to be paid out as a lump sum would be paid out as part of your salary.
So why don't we just keep it as one figure as opposed to having it separated out? Is all I'm getting at, and I think the mayor's already said it. So enough of that. I just want to also remind council and our district representative wards 2 and 4 that I'm in Ward 4. So I do have significant boat expenses as well, not as substantial as yours, definitely, but I do.
And the only thing that we get basically tax-free is the health allowance. Councilor Graziano.
Thank you, Your Worship. Clearly, our government wants us to be healthy in order to claim more taxes from us. But I'm curious, and this is a question to our Director of Finance, and maybe even a suggestion for Council to consider, food for thought. RSP match, possible? Not possible? So if someone such as myself who is still employed in parallel to his civic obligations, and I endeavored to take my honorarium, income, budget, whatever you want to call what I get, and dump it into an RSP, is there a possibility that the municipality who is seeking to attract new councillors, perhaps a younger demographic of new councillors, because I'm flanked by, my seniors, could consider something as an incentive? So is this something that is possible?
Through you, Mayor Coutier, to Councillor Graziano. RSP is not something I would recommend. However, OMERS is something HR could potentially look into. I believe you could pay a portion into it and the township could match. I believe that is a possibility, yes.
Food for thought, gentlemen.
My only concern with that is that a certain number of us, especially this group, if we run next term, wouldn't qualify for an RSP because we're past that magic age, or will be. I have no idea what the OMERS rules are, but I think that's adding. Sorry? Yeah. I think OMERS would be a wonderful benefit for the mayor. Aren't I technically an employee? Oh, well then. Good luck. Sorry? Yes, sir.
I seem to recall reading somewhere in our remuneration package, is it with the health spending account that after a certain age, it is no longer, at that age is 70, is that correct? Or is it 75? What is that age? At which point the health spending account doesn't, no longer applies.
The travel insurance.
The travel insurance?
I think is half as of 70 and gone as of 75.
It's a travel insurance. Okay, thank you.
No. Yeah. I mean, I also think it's worthwhile pointing out, if we're going to be pointing these things out, the older you get, the less money we get from here, because the taxes go up, because all of a sudden you got your CVP and your OAS and your RSPs that you got to cash in, and therefore you're in a higher tax bracket, and therefore you're giving more back to Ottawa in spite of whatever the township's putting into it. But yeah. Okay. Clerk Way, we got to start narrowing this down, or else it's going to be a wasted effort, I believe. So I'm thinking I'll go through each item here, and then we'll see what else we want to add to it. How's that?
Okay.
So, item 1, mayor meeting honorarium to be set at $10,000 annually versus now it's a shade under 9, I believe. I forgot. You had it in your report. Yeah, it's about a 10% increase. See? No, it's at this point I'm paid $9,100. Where the heck was that? You had a chart somewhere.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well that's okay. We can survive. Anyway, so the question is, right now I'm being paid $9,109. And the proposal is that it'll be increased by $881 if my math is working, which is certainly under 10%. All those are willing to see me have that increase. That's enough. That gets a tick mark. Councillor meeting honorarium would be They're proposed going from 5,470 to 6,500, which is $1,030, which is darn close to 20%. So you guys are getting a much bigger boost than I am percentage-wise. All those in favor? Not surprised. Yes, it won't help you in the short run. Public members of the Committee of Adjustment meeting honorarium to be set at 175.
You said 200.
I propose 200. Okay, 200. You keep hesitating. You want to say something? You're just nervous.
You keep looking at me, looking for answers, but then you answer them yourself. So I'm just at the ready.
You stop.
Why? It's our job.
The same.
You should get more. How about giving all in favor of chair getting 300? Okay. Yeah, well, Okay, now let's have some fun. The once per term IT stipend be canceled.
Sorry. Currently, that is only for non-district counselors because district counselors receive a per term stipend from the district. If we're canceling it because the intention is for you to be able to buy your own devices, do you want everyone to have a per term stipend? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, staff to get back to us because we had some discussion about, I'll call it computerization. Mayor be provide a mobile device. I'm indifferent, so I don't care.
You get a mobile device?
I don't get one now.
Will you pick up our phone calls?
Sometimes. Depends whether I have it on silent or not. So I don't care. Mayor and council or health spending amount annual amount be set at 4,000.
Currently, it's a 1-year carryover.
Even 3 months, I don't care.
Well, you got the whole year.
I do have the whole year, but usually forget to do anything until the end of the year. So I'm not an accountant for crying out loud. I just do it.
Okay. Now,
He wants to make his plans for the holiday season.
that is the entire list that was in front of us. And then staff be directed to report back and direct budget impacts. Okay. And staff be directed to bring forward amended bylaws and policies. What else were we talking about that we want staff to look into? Because we did have some back and forth about whether or not we should be paid anything extra because we're voters and or not voters and or farther away and or closer. Allowance. I'll call it a additional. Let me call it allowance, for lack of a better word, versus a mileage rate.
Do you want staff to report back on options or amounts to increase the meeting honorarium based off an average voting distance estimate or something? It does. Or a policy on.
Councilor Graziano.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just for those that may not believe in this as a viable option, I want to kind of give a good reference to what had happened. I had endeavored to take staff out on 6 Mile Lake, as our director of planning will attest, only to have my motor blow along the way. $18,000 later, I now have a new 115 on the back of my pontoon. So essentially this whole year has gone towards the replacement of my motor. And so it's one thing to consider, but there is wear and tear. And look, I haven't come back to the municipality saying, please pay me, because I'm not. I endeavored to invite them out, and that was my responsibility and likely my neglect as well. But with that said, there is wear and tear, there's gas, there's time, there's all of that. And so there needs to be some way to confirm that. And perhaps it is an expense. Yes, it may not provide an equal total amount annually, but then again, councillors that do require water access and have to address and support water access constituents, they're paying $1.80 to $2 a liter at the pumps, whereas I can jerry can from the Gibson Wawa or WADA gas station and endeavor to get a little bit less. So is it fair? No. But are there councillors that are incurring a heavier burden and costs? Yes. So we should keep us whole in that context. Thank you.
So are we going to, Councillor Jarvis?
Notwithstanding what has just been stated, and I'm not disagreeing with that, when I was made aware that I could run for council, yada, 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 I was advised at that time, to terms back, that the compensation from a monetary standpoint was not going to be particularly significant. And so I had my eyes were open going in. There were going to be costs involved in participating as a member of council. I was fully aware of that going in. I think we all got to acknowledge that this is not a profit-making opportunity as a councillor. This is something we do because we love doing the job and we want to do it for our constituents. And not because we want staff to hate us either. But anyway, the idea is we've got to set a level that we understand will adequately compensate us. But at the same time, it's set up so that we know what we're getting into every time. And the people coming after us know right off the bat, yeah, you'll get compensated, but it may not cover everything, but it should make things okay for you to do the job. I mean, at some point in time, I guess, we may have to start compensating people enough to encourage them to take this on as a job, especially because if you want younger people doing it, if they have another job, they may have to give it up to do this job. And that's why we get a bunch of retired people, well, theoretically retired, on council, because we can afford the time. Anyway, all I'm saying is I came into this with my eyes open, knowing that there were going to be expenses, and it was unlikely to be covered for everything. And that's just the way it is.
Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, I think this isn't a profit opportunity. It's out of pocket, is I think what is being discussed when it comes to the vessel issue. And I will say that if one had to go out and replace a vessel that's suitable for Ward 2, we're talking in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then you have to have a car, and then you've got this and you've got that. So it's an additional cost that's really significant. Whether it's repairs to the engine or buying a new one, it's a lot of money. So I think a little bit of support on the vessel side would be appropriate. And unfortunately, I can't get somebody to come over to my place and pick me up and take me like Brian can. That's not going to happen.
Excuse me, Councillor Cooper, I've been known to pick you up. Not often, but I've been known to.
Once, I'm sure. Anyway, thank you for that. But, you do it 2 or 3 times a month on top of all your council meetings back and forth to Honey Harbor. It's big money. So just like to point that out. Thank you.
And it seems to recall the last time I picked you up, seas were such that I wouldn't want to have been out on a wave runner or Sea-Doo. Because that boat was tossing. Anyway, that was part of the fun. Councillor Hazelton.
Recognized at the last minute. I think what Councillor Cooper said earlier about the unique characteristics of the Bay are very important, and he also talked about the need to have forward thinking about being able to motivate future councillor candidates. And we are a unique township, as is the archipelago in many respects, with water access and water travel. And I think that should be reflected in our policies. I just think that we shouldn't be taking it lightly. We should take it very seriously. If the district has already recognized an uptick for mileage, we need to find a way to recognize that travel expense and that 6 times factor compared to automotive travel that the district has recognized for marine travel. So it would be suited to our unique characteristic as a township.
I just wanted to make one comment when I heard some references to age and all that. I know that district recently, half a year ago, I can't remember exactly, we're talking about salary increases and things like that, and we happen to have a few what I would consider younger members at district, and you know, the comment they made is that they're all, at least the ones that most of them that I consider the younger ones, have part-time jobs elsewhere, other roles that they play, and therefore, but the argument is that, and district councilors have had significant raises over the last half dozen years. We're paid quite a bit more now than we used to be. And the argument went that, you know, for a district councilor to spend a day in council, they should be paid somewhat equivalent to what they'd be paid for a day at their other job. And so our salaries, I believe the district councilor salaries now are in the low 30s and expect in the next term to climb through the 30s. So and that's, you know, that's whether it's half the job that they do, because all district councilors are also local councilors. But I just put that as mentioned in reflection of trying to attract a younger crowd. You're not going to attract a younger crowd that are full-time day job employees, because both district council and our council meet during the day, but you may attract I'll call it the part-timers. I mean, one's a real estate agent that I'm thinking of, one works for a not-for-profit, one works for a marketing firm. I mean, I'm just using a couple examples. I think another one's a real estate agent. Doesn't matter. They have flexible hours. Their employers are flexible, but they also it's inspired council as a whole to say, well, maybe we should be paying district councilors more, and that has happened there. Just for your information. Clerk Way, at one point, you, I think, were reluctantly volunteering to look into mileage versus increased stipend or something.
What a comparable amount.
Or comparable amounts. Yeah. And I think that would be a good thing. It's to let staff survey other townships, other areas, and see what they do, so to compensate people who may be closer or farther, wetter or drier in their commute to the office.
It'll be a tough job.
It will be, and we'll just have to arbitrarily, at a certain point, pick something, and then, you know, our constituents. And who knows, if anybody's paying any attention to this, our constituents may have an opinion and they may share it. And we'd have to look at that too. Because I think whatever we're deciding isn't for us, it's for the next term's council, which any of us may or may not be on that council. Okay, so now, Clerk Way, what more do you want me to write in here, or have you written for me? And who wants to end this conversation relatively soon? Okay, so we've given you some clear answers. We've given you a couple of questions. Okay, so that we agree to that. Public 200 meeting. Public member community who serves as chair to be 3. Staff report option for once per term ID stipend. Mayor Council health bank account at 4,000. Staff report on options to encompass vessel mileage or equivalent. Yeah, well, I mean, that gives you something to, okay. Are we okay with that list at this point? All right, so I'm going to have moved by Councillor Cooper, second by Councillor Bochek. Be resolved that Committee of the Whole receives a report regarding council remuneration review for consideration, and that list you just saw, and that staff be directed to report back on direct budget impacts beginning in 2026, And beginning 2020, the end of 2020, because this next term, or is this?
This is the stuff some of it is, sorry, some of it is per term, but most of this would be encompassed in the next budget is the
And that staff be
Yeah.
directed to bring forward amended bylaws and policies as applicable to amend the council and committee remuneration. All those in favor? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Next on our list, Councillor Graziano, overnight boat mooring for Rock the Dock.
Thank you, and through your worship, the intent of this is to facilitate a conversation with regards to the potential possibility of finding ways to allow for the consumption of alcohol legally at an event such as Rock the Dock. And while in allowing or finding a way for us to change our current bylaws to allow for third parties potentially to come in and serve, that we also find a way in which to allow for overnight mooring at the port in Honey Harbor there, where Rock Dock is held. So the impetus here is really a safety concern. Numerous constituents of mine who attend the event have inquired with regards to why there's no overnight allowances on the docks, especially when there is potential for drinking at the event, whether legally or quietly behind the scenes when no one's looking. And whether it would be wise and prudent for the municipality to find a way to allow for overnighting, thereby mitigating any potential risk on our waterways, as well as allowing someone to practice good judgment and stay overnight versus embarking on their watercrafts and attempting to return home while under the influence. So not for what this is not is for us to incur the liability, but rather finding ways to serve our community, make it a safer community, and recognize that whether legal or quietly done behind the scenes, there is a potential for drinking at not only this event, but other events. A good example of that is Honeybee Festival, where we do serve alcohol, and we do allow alcohol to be served at that event. And recognizing that and saying, how can we make it a safer, better community for everyone? So looking to facilitate a conversation and see which way the wind blows. Over to council.
Thank you. Did I see Councillor Bochek said? Yes, I did. He went and disappeared and came back. Councillor Bochek.
Through you, Mayor, there's stipulations of who can drink on a boat and who can't drink on a boat. You have to be moored. You have to have a washroom facility, a board. There's a number of different criteria that allow you to drink on board. And if this moves anywhere forward, I think it should include the fact that your drinking on your boat should be legal in order for you to have an overnight stay. Because if not, you shouldn't be drinking on your boat, according to the OPP, according to provincial law.
Thank you. Councillor Jarvis.
Yeah, I think we're walking into a hornet's nest by allowing any kind of alcohol consumption in this, and I'm definitely against that. It's been listed as a dry event. Let's leave it as a dry event. However, the idea of perhaps allowing parking overnight on special event evenings is not a bad idea. So I'd be in favor of, on occasional event dates, suspending the charge to park at the port. Just my thinking on that.
Director Engel, I'll go to you before I go to Councillor Hazelton, please.
Through you, Mayor Coutier, I have had this conversation with bylaw. We have a couple issues. We are aware that there is drinking. I think a large quantity of the individuals attending these events are not aware that drinking is not allowed. So we do have signage up. With the update to the provincial legislation that allows municipalities to legally allow people to drink in parks, it's becoming blurrier and blurrier, especially when we have people coming from larger municipalities like Toronto, where it is legal to drink in a park. It's certainly on our work plan to look at over the winter, reviewing our parks bylaw. We have a couple steps we have to take because this is in essence a road, not a park. So we would have to close the road through bylaw, which we should be anyway since it is blocked off, and then make it a legal fire route through a park. We have to look into that, and then look at perhaps following what Toronto has done, where certain parks are designated as legal for drinking at certain periods in time. That is the one aspect of having drinking in it. The protection for us is that anyone that's running events at these times would have to be insured with the understanding that there is the potential for alcohol. That may deter individuals from actually wanting to run events because they're now taking on more responsibility. We can also look at it as just a one event, which we do where people can rent a park and have drinking, and similar to what we do for the Honeybee. At this point in time in our parks bylaw and our fees and charges bylaw, we do not rent out parks. So I'm looking at updating that as well so that we can ensure that if people are having events in parks, that it's properly insured, that they're following all of our guidelines, that they're not having large open fires or barbecues or anything along that line, and that if they are having alcohol at the event, that we're insuring it properly and we're permitting it properly. So I think there's a lot of steps we have to look at in this. There is definitely a risk of saying that what is a nice event because it ends at 9 o'clock at night. So while people may have a couple drinks, we're not seeing, the 1 o'clock in the morning, sloppy drunk wandering through a very quiet residential neighborhood. And if we're looking at allowing them to carry the party on because they can now stay at the docks overnight, then we're going to see a lot of disruption to the neighborhood around there, including the people that are renting cabins at the property, as well as the private residents, and that is a residential neighborhood. But it is on our work plan to look into.
Thank you. Councillor Pedko.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. So I'm.
Oh, sorry, wait a minute. I skipped Councillor Hazelton, didn't I? I apologize. I was just. Yeah, well.
Peter has something for you.
Can we allow Councillor Hazelton to go ahead and then Councillor Pedko, because that was my mistake.
Okay, so what I find interesting about the wording of this is I hearken back to all of the ads that we hear in festive times where the police and others are trying to remind everybody that it's not just alcohol. It's all these other things that modify your mind, like little gummies and smoking, and so I think that this is not an alcohol thing. This is a mind-altering thing, and I don't think we want to focus on just alcohol. In fact, my preference would be just to remove the word alcohol altogether and focus on the fact that there may be a desire for people who are coming to that event to have overnight docking for any reason. It doesn't matter to me what it is. I think what Director Engel has suggested is we don't want to turn it into a party atmosphere, but at the same time, I think that's controllable. We don't have too many other events in our area that are like that. So I would like to actually propose a friendly amendment, if I could, that we change it to explore the possibility of permitting and implementing overnight boat mooring, removing the responsible alcohol consumption. Because to me, it's not just alcohol. It's, as I say, all this other stuff that can go on. And then what we have is a situation where we have this giant set of docks, Port of Honey Harbor, and it has a 2-hour limit. But I mean, we want people to enjoy our township. And so if there's an opportunity to enjoy it more, but with special permits to help cover some costs, then I think that we should be entertaining that and exploring that. Thank you.
Councillor Predko.
I think Ms. King would like to speak.
Through your chair. So
Through
just,
you, Chair.
sorry, thanks, Mr. Redco. So just a couple notes. That this is something that Mara and I have discussed. I think it's important that, one, if we're talking about the Rock the Dock, we had talked to the event organizer. So I gave her a call today because I saw this coming on. And basically, she didn't really feel that it was necessary in the sense that it's a 2-hour event in the evening. She doesn't see that be too valuable. She didn't seem very interested in having that alcohol permitted. We've had these discussions because we have had some issues this year that she's graciously worked with us and OPP to address the best we can with the teams available. She said that basically if this is something that the council wants or township wants, then she would have to have a meeting to discuss the next steps as to whether she wants to go down that path at all, because it does put her in a different situation than what it started as. It started as just that family 2-hour event that needs to be done there. About the 2-hour mooring, the 2-hour mooring was decided. There was a committee, and I was on it. Jen, maybe you can help me remember the committee name. It was the Honey Harbor community helped make these, suggestions for the port when it came into effect.
To you, Mr. Chair, the Honey Harbor Community Advisory Group.
Thank you. So that was the decision that was brought forward by them, was that 2-hour. I know I suggested myself 4-hour, and they really wanted 2. So that's kind of where we stuck. So just for reference, that's where that came in from. I know there was an insurance piece that probably Greg will get into that I had concerns about. We would need to update our rental agreement. The bylaw doesn't speak to alcohol, but we'd have to change it if that's something that we wanted to look into, as Mara suggested. And we have a municipal alcohol policy also that would need to be updated. Event organizer, sorry, I just have a little list here I'm going down. I think we should put this out to community wider, because I don't know if the Delawana or the other local people will be comfortable with that, because there had been a couple issues that were brought to my attention then. So I would think that's something we should definitely advertise far and wide before that decision is made here. Yeah, I think that's all I've got for now.
Thank you. Councillor Predko, you've been more than patient now.
Oh, no, thank you. It's helpful to get all the perspectives. So my view on this at this point is that Rock the Dock is a 2-hour event in the evening that's family friendly, and I worry that this motion is creating a problem that we don't have today. Alcohol consumption is obviously a big different road than what we've done in the past, especially in our municipal parks. And I don't think it's something that we should do very lightly. And I'd also be very concerned about overnight mooring without controls and processes in place, because if we have extra boats that want to moor overnight and we don't have procedures in place to prevent them, we have people who, the concern is that they've been drinking and they shouldn't be driving their boat. Do we want them on our shoreline where they could have slip and falls and increase our liabilities? I think this is premature to where we are today as a township. I know we want people to come and visit the township, and they will come to Rock the Dock, but I don't think we need to have them prolong their stay overnight without proper infrastructure in place. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. And a lot of different viewpoints here. I wasn't aware, for example, that the Honeybee Festival, there's alcohol served. Is that what I heard? So why wouldn't we?
It's a licensed area
where they serve it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It strikes me we're over managing this. I think we should be welcoming, and if there's some risk that can be specifically identified where we would have some sort of culpability and need risk management, I get that. I'm just not convinced that there's anything like that. I think this is, people tie up at docks, at the town dock in Penetang and Midland and other places too, and probably go into town or sit on their boat and have a drink. And I don't know. I think we're maybe over managing it. Thank you.
Before I get into my comments, a little motion here moved by Councillor Graziano, seconded by Councillor Jarvis. Be it resolved that COW does now extend past 4:30, but no later than 6 p.m. All those in favor? I got enough votes to say that's carried. Well, I'm hoping it won't be too long, but we'll find out. I got a couple, to me, and this has already been implied, but I think we got two or three separate issues in this motion, and I think it's very important that they be separated. The first one is drinking at Rock the Dock. And in my opinion, I think it'd be foolish of us as council in any way to say, go ahead and drink at Rock the Dock. We don't have licensed bartenders. We're not serving drinks. If people come with something alcoholic in their thermos or drinking bottle, at this point, we don't know. If their behavior doesn't give them away, it's like any other event, any other location. But I think if we do anything to encourage drinking at Rock the Dock, we're going to kind of defeat the purpose, expose ourselves to liability, possibly increased insurance premiums. I don't think that's a good idea, A. B, what I am glad to hear that staff are considering reviewing our alcohol policies this winter with regards to our parks or our lands, if I can put it that way, and in recognition of the fact that there is change in this province, that we're going from like a totally dry outdoor area to limited drinking in limited areas. I think that's well worth reviewing. I'm glad. And the third point, though, is overnight docking at the Port of Honey Harbor. And I think that's something we should consider, totally independent of Rock the Dock, totally independent of drinking, is that, and I know in the past we were considering it and figuring it was too complicated, but I also wonder, and I'm going to say this to Ms. King, how often do you go out to see whether anybody has moored overnight, or how often have you received complaints in that regard to date?
Through your chair, I don't have the statistics on me. It's on our patrol list, so we go through, but we attend the Rock the Dock now because there had been some issues. So we have staff there at every Rock the Dock event until it's done this year. So that's a piece of the puzzle. But we patrol the. But
I wouldn't imagine you're there until the last boat leaves the dock at 11 o'clock at night or whatever it might be.
No, we leave. Yeah, we leave. We come back by 9 because the event's 7 to 9.
I think that's another project that we could consider, is whether or not we want to allow overnight docking, and if so, what conditions we may or may not put on that, or what fees we may or may not put on that. But again, to me, that's the third piece of this, and I am not in favor of drinking at the or any way condoning drinking at Rock the Dock. I'm glad that alcohol consumption on our properties is being considered for like a general policy for our parklands and that. I do think we should think about going forward whether or not we want to allow overnight docking at the Port of Honey Harbor. That's my take on it all. Councillor Graziano and Cooper, I don't know who had whose hand up which. Okay. I'll go to our fire chief, Chief Van Dam.
For the mooring on the dock, this was, I believe it was Councillor Bochuk, if my memory serves me right, brought this up as a revenue generator that started off in the Port Severn Park there was equipment and all that sold in there, and council at that time instructed us that we were not interested in that. So this is coming up again with a different circumstance.
Thank you. Councillor Graziano.
Thank you, Worship. And our fire chief actually touched on something that I was going to bring to the attention of this council, is that currently we have, I guess, bylaws in place to ensure that there's no party atmosphere happening in our Port Severn Park on the on our docks whereby they're allowed to overnight. We do also allow overnight stays in that park. And I'd be remiss to understand why we allow for it there and we wouldn't allow for it in the Port of Honey Harbor. And further, I would assume that our bylaws already cover noise complaint issues that would likely carry over, as the Port Severn Park is also a residential area with actually a applicant that came before our planning council here today. So I think we missed a request by Councillor Hazelton in that we dropped the whole idea and premise of alcohol. In fact, the question around alcohol arose through a council staff email that came after my initial request to just allow for mooring to take place overnight. The agenda item today was amended to include the request that staff investigate over the winter time to see whether or not allowing for alcohol consumption would be feasible. But that said, the impetus for today's motion was really just to allow for overnight docking. Councillor Hazelton had requested that we make an amendment. I would agree to that amendment, as he's the seconder of this motion and I am the mover. Let's just strictly focus on overnight, allowing overnight, especially on special events such as Rock the Dock. Let's allow people to make that decision. We won't condone drinking. We can completely forbid it. And I would go so far as to say, if we're going to do that, let's also take that position and be consistent for the Honey Harbor or the Honeybee Festival. But with that said, let's at least allow for overnighting for a few reasons. One, it can generate revenue for the municipality. B, it would be a convenience to our community members that attend different events in Honey Harbor, should there be some that they wish to stay overnight with, including Honeybee Festival, should they endeavor to want to hang out and stay the day, rather than having to commute all the way back to their properties, wherever they may be. So, in considering Councillor Hazelton's recommendation, I'm going to agree to the friendly amendment. Let's forego all of the mentions with regards to alcohol and just strictly focus on overnighting. And I would say if Councillor Bochek had already brought it forward, that's likely because Councillor Bochek also received inquiries from constituents, as did I, asking for this. And remember, our community is growing very, very quickly, specifically in Oak Bay. As more portions of Oak Bay are coming online, and there is a large contingent of Oak Bayers that attend these events, as they should, and they want to boat over there, as well as they want to ride bikes. Unfortunately, the bike comments would be to be continued on that. But that said, boats and overnight mooring. Thank you.
I'm going to suggest that we might do something along the lines of, now therefore, be it resolved that staff be requested to bring back a report to council, discuss the feasibility of overnight mooring at the Port of Honey Harbor.
Councillor Bochek. The whole impetus of having the docks in Honey Harbor is for residents to come and use the dock to go into town to pick up groceries or go to the liquor store or whatever. So I would like to see a limitation to maybe one of the docks or two of the docks for overnight stays. It could be signed that way, but leave docks still for our residents to go into town and come up. Because you could be there from 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 4 o'clock the following afternoon and take up all the docks. Yeah.
I mean, and that's part of, if we're considering it, that's one of the things that would be part of the considerations. C.O. Mariotti.
Thank you, Mayor Coetzee. I'd actually propose to go one step further because Port Severn also does not have overnight mooring. So if we're going to look at a policy to allow overnight mooring at our dockage facilities, then let's do that township wide. This should be for the whole season, not just for Rock the Dock. And I know there's technology out there that's relatively straightforward that, you could even apply for overnight or pay for overnight mooring, even with your smartphone. If we put up signage up at the locations, unless council wants free overnight mooring, then we can look at that as well. Just bear in mind that there will be an increased potential bylaw staffing to have to respond to any complaints or calls that might come in. If there are boats that are mooring overnight and there's 2 or 3 that are together and they want to have a party, then there could be some complaints from neighbors from that respect. My understanding at the Rock the Dock is that the vast majority of the boats are bow riders. They're day boats. They're not overnight yachts that are asking to moor overnight. So, and the size of our docks as well, that there's only a few spots where larger vessels can dock overnight, and we don't have power. So if the target is to allow bow riders to dock overnight and sleep off a hangover, then that's a liability on the township in itself. Because what we're doing now, it's no different than someone wanting to sleep off a few beers on the side of the street in their car. It's exactly the same thing. So we can look at this, but bear in mind we don't have the hydro and the water services there to accommodate overnight docking for vessels that genuinely want to overnight dock. We need to then implement that infrastructure, the hydro and the water, to allow them to do that. But we can certainly look at that. The other aspect as well is the serving of alcohol at the Honeybee Festival. That is tightly controlled. Those who attended the Honeybee Festival would have seen that we had outside security be present. The area had to be cordoned off, the smart serve, all those things to make sure that when alcohol is served, it's served responsibly. And as Ms. King has said a little earlier on, we actually spoke to the key stakeholder in all of this, which is the organizer of the event. And the organizer herself has trepidation with allowing alcohol to be used, and it's her name on this as well, because she is the one who would have to be the signatory for the insurance.
At this point, I've removed references to Rock the Dock. I removed references to alcohol, and it's strictly the draft motion. It has not yet been approved. Obviously, is strictly asking staff to bring back a report to council about the feasibility of overnight mooring. And I've now removed Port of Honey Harbor. So I'd like to shut this down as quickly as possible, but I'm going to go to Councillor Predko.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So piggybacking on the CAO's comments, last month we passed a resolution for staff to investigate camping and regulating camping. Could these two projects be put together, since mooring on the dock may have a lot of similarities to what they'd be looking at with camping, so it would just be a larger report? Just a suggestion.
Yep, good one.
I would suggest they would be separate. I think they're pretty meaty on their own, but yeah, for sure.
From my perspective, if you have to track people who are mooring and you have to track people who are camping, there might be similarities there, and that's where I thought there might be some crossover.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Graziano.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring or cite something. I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to visit Wanakita a few weeks back, and I believe the docks there allow for overnighting, but don't have electricity nor water/sewage systems. But you can purchase an overnight opportunity and park there, if memory serves me correctly, as well as there's a whole bunch of boats that surround the beach and anchor off of it. And so I wonder, if we can draw reference to what the feds allow in provincial parks as well as federal parks, and determine how we can make this happen. But over to staff, suffice it that council allows for it here today.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Graziano, second by Councillor Hazelton. Be it resolved that the Committee of the Whole recommend to Council that staff be requested to bring back a report to discuss the feasibility of overnight mooring. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Oh dear. Moved by Councillor Jarvis, seconded by Councillor Predko. Be it resolved, the Committee of the Whole does now adjourn at 4:39 p.m. to reconvene on August 13th, and that is tomorrow at 9 a.m. or at the call of the chair. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. See you all tomorrow at 9 o'clock, person or not so in person.